That bit rate warning's talking shite, Stephen.
That's not your
It's
concern.
saying it's too high. You can never have too high a bit rate. Blame YouTube.
Hello and welcome on into this Monday's edition here at MB. We'd just like to thank you once again for joining us here on our YouTube channel and of course our Twitch stream. We are live and interactive. I'm one of your co-hosts, Stephen John McLaughlin. Our co-host, it's John C. Walsh. How are you doing, John?
I'm looking very off kilter here. I'm perhaps with my OCD going to stand up and walk off shortly and sort that camera out.
We'll get right into it then, John, because I know that'll be eating away.
I want to apologise first and foremost for that thumbnail. It took me 10 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's demented. I'm putting my apology out there. I profusely apologise.
The thumbnail, it needs technology that doesn't quite exist at the moment. That's what it is. According to Peter Jackson anyway, that's what he's talking about. A very different Beatles film with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr involved. That's coming in from NME, John.
Yes.
One of the actual magazines, music magazines that were out and about when Beatlemania was out and about.
He's out and about.
So there we go. So anyway, here it is. That's okay. This is the article in question. Peter Jackson has announced that he's working on a very different Beatles-related project. In an interview with Deadline, the Lord of the Rings director revealed that he's in talks with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr to develop a new film. Jackson last worked with the pair on the Emmy-nominated documentary series The Beatles Get Back, which was released in November of last year. This is what he had to say. I'm talking to the Beatles about another project, something very, very different than Get Back, he said. We're seeing what the possibilities are, but it's another project with them. It's not really a documentary, and that's all I can really say. We are never in a position where we have to do anything, but we've got a few things percolating. I like that word, because I'm a coffee lover.
Percolating, yes.
While Jackson wasn't able to share too many details, he did suggest that the vision for the project will require technology to improve. It's so technically complicated, I'm trying to work how exactly I'll do it, he said. It's a live action movie, but it needs technology that doesn't quite exist at the moment, so we're in the middle of developing the technology to allow it to happen. I'm trying to anticipate what I might be able to do before it even exists. They're not fantasy epics, but they're pretty interesting. Released in 3 parts, The Beatles Get Back featured digitally restored footage of the band from 1969 as they worked against a tight deadline to record 14 new songs. This would become their final studio album, Let It Be. On piecing the series together, Jackson explained, in a way my idea of heaven is to take footage from somewhere else, and Michael Lindsay Hogg shot amazing footage. It wasn't as intense as making the 3 Lord of the Rings back to back, but it was 4 years with a pandemic in the middle of it all. In November last year, Jackson defended Get Back's lengthy runtime, suggesting it may have taken another 50 years to uncover anything he didn't include in the film. Now, anyone that's
who criticised the lengthy runtime of Get Back?
People that don't like the Beatles.
Who are these cretins?
You may have remembered that we actually reviewed Get Back earlier in the year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think we actually rated it an A. If I recall, maybe not, I don't know, can't remember, maybe a 10 out of 10.
No, we definitely gave it the highest score we could possibly award. Stephen, we're Beatles fans.
John, I'm going to ask you something. This actually came out on Friday, but obviously we've been doing a lot of recordings. Comic-Con happened, so I was kind of keeping this one in the back burner, because it is very interesting.
We're reacting to videos whilst not reacting.
Yeah, apparently so.
We need to get our hankies out and start crying.
The bit that really interests me in Jackson's speech here is, of course, the technology. He's waiting for it to improve. So it does exist. He does say that he can't share too many details, but they are in a position where they don't have to do anything. So they're not committing at this early stage, but obviously been in talks with the surviving members of the Fab Four. I think I've got some theories, John, but what's your thoughts on this anyway? What do you think it's going to be? He has mentioned it's not really a documentary, but it is a live action film. So what could that be?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of possibilities. You can get round the whole not a documentary, but kind of is thing by perhaps going out and tour. First and foremost with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
James Paul McCartney and Richard Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
They could do a tour. You could have body doubles on a lead guitar and on a rhythm guitar, holographic shit going on maybe deep fake stuff going on.
Mm.
Kind of, I don't know, go on this sort of historic tour, bring the Beatles back. And it's not really a documentary, it's a sort of touring video. And brand it as some return. They're
Like
kind of doing that with ABBA just now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Where they're involved, but then they're not involved, and it's holographic, and they're recording it all, and it's in a ready-made arena.
And plenty of motion cap going on
Plenty
as well.
of motion cap going on.
To play their younger selves.
Their younger selves. We know that they're both still touring at the moment. I mean, Ringo's rampant. He's touring with an all-star band.
Yeah.
Mac is just headline Glastonbury. Voice isn't what it was, so that would be a big issue if you're trying to get him to realistically portray a youthful self. But you have a theory about that, Stephen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to get into that theory just
John,
now, because we are utilising this technology just now.
Do you know something? I'm glad I got your thoughts there, because it's something I would never have thought of, was actually doing something as a present or future project with the Beatles in present time. I was actually thinking maybe
Getting back.
archive kind of thing, you know. I always wanted to see the Beatles recording stuff very much in the same sort of fashion as we got with Get Back, but for the Revolver Rubber Soul period in the studio, they just didn't film anything, unfortunately. It was all audio. But the idea that I took from this was that you're absolutely right. I think it's going to be something kind of deep fake. I also think the voice recognition thing is key to it as well, which I not have any clue here. This is just me speculating. This isn't anything
That's why
I've read.
It's a movie news show, Stephen.
Yeah, and it's not even a rumour. It's just something that's floating about in my head.
It's just a rumour.
I think Peter Jackson spoke to Jon Favreau in terms of the technology they've been using in the Star Wars Disney series, in terms of the voice stuff they did for Luke Skywalker and
James
The
Earl
Mandalorian and then Boba Fett, and James Earl Jones's
Darth Julius Vader.
tweaked voice, which sounded pretty amazing actually.
Sounded better than
Rogue One. He's an older gentleman, so they've got to do something to tweak it. And I think that's what it may be. I think perhaps maybe they can put George Harrison and John Lennon's voices through that process and feed it through the algorithm, and then they can actually come up with artificial voices for both of them in terms of speech. My idea was actually, John, not as a present thing. I actually prefer your idea now, thinking about it. I think it's something different. It's something
you can go and see it.
Yeah, you know, and I think
because the holographic technology isn't where it
No.
could be, but in 5-10 years
it's getting better.
It could be really special.
Yeah,
because we've seen the likes of Tupac, we've seen ABBA, we've seen Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan.
Also saw Freddie Mercury, didn't
Freddie Mercury,
doing it with Brian May. Yeah,
them doing this, and it's janky.
Yeah,
but it could really improve in the coming years, and then you've got the Beatles back, touring, live.
And you mentioned John Glastonbury, where they used Peter Jackson's isolated vocals for John. I've Got a Feeling,
mind, Stephen,
and I think that's the next stage, isn't it? Is to have a physical presence on stage, not just an audio
that
presence.
Be fantastic for Macca and Ringo, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, it'd have to be body doubles on the stage with them, but to hear John's voice and George's voice beside them all performing cohesively again as a unit. Also, they're not performing.
Technically, come under a live action film. I would say it probably does if it's a concert, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, it's not a documentary because for it to be a documentary, you need to be documenting something. Well, I mean, it is a documentary. I'm talking shit. This might not be something that he's even thinking about that's even going to happen. I'm just storyboarding here, brainstorming what I would like to see. But Stephen, look, I'm with you as well, man. That middle period of the Beatles, where they were still touring, but it wasn't quite the heights of Beatlemania. They were getting more adventurous in the studio, the likes of Rubber Soul, Revolver, getting into Sgt. Pepper's, Magical Mystery Tour. These guys were maturing at a rate of knots. Yeah. Hairstyles were changing, facial hair was coming out. They were experimenting with...
They were putting weight on, losing weight.
Losing weight. They were experimenting with all sorts of hallucinogenic drugs, which is easier for me to say. Could probably say it better if I was on acid. Really interesting period in the Beatles' history. Probably their best music for me came in that period. Just real inspired stuff, double tracking, pushing the envelope in terms of technology. Flanger effects getting discovered fucking on the hop in the studio.
Moog synthesizers.
Yeah. If you could maybe utilise some technology that somehow brings that to us, I don't know how you can do it, but we can live them recording in that period going to the likes of Japan and doing their tours.
Yeah.
I'd fucking love to see that, because we've just not got enough footage from that time period.
I would love to see some kind of Abbey Road thing, you know, from
That would
about
be good,
65, 66.
Wouldn't
You know,
it?
just having that sort of footage. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Scotch Midge. How you doing?
Yes, sorry Matthew, we've been
Yeah.
completely ignoring you there. I do apologise. I can't speak for Stephen, I'm doing very good.
Yeah, I'm doing
Stephen's
okay,
top is excellent. What about my top, Matthew? Can you not see it?
It's just like floating head. You're like Holly out of Red Dwarf.
Top.
All right, Dave.
In terms of what I'm seeing, it just blends into the t-shirt. I'm sure in reality it's not. I mean, that's a good thing, because it covers up the ever-growing chest, not in a muscular way. Lots of chocolate donuts getting out, lots of drink getting consumed. Beatles mono versus stereo. For me, it has to be... Well, I mean, it's a trick question, Matthew, because the first 3-4 years was just standard mono. There wasn't really a stereo
They try to
mono.
sterilise it.
Yes, and then from the mid-period onwards in their catalogue it turned to stereo.
Yeah.
But there is distinct differences between mono and stereo. I've listened to mono versions of Sgt. Pepper's and it is a completely different fucking song.
It's outstanding.
But for me, stereo.
Yeah.
Because I live in a modern era
I think
where I've got
mono's
surround
done
sound.
proper. Proper mono. Not a proper stereo as well. I don't want to see mono converted to stereo. It doesn't work. Keep it mono, and it's good the way it is. But I'm the same as you, John. Stereo. You know, just having those effects. You know, having the sound travel from one side of the room to another, which it was designed to do in some instances. Certainly with the later albums.
We're accustomed to it as well, aren't we, Stephen? Hearing the drums and the bass in one ear, the singing, the backing vocals in different ears. It's a bit of an issue if one of the AirPods or the earbuds goes down, because then you're only hearing half the song. But yeah,
I always loved that. I think it was during the anthology. Paul, George, and Ringo were talking about. George couldn't understand why we changing to stereo, you know, and Paul's like, I always remember when we took one of our records to a party in a room, and you know, listening to Ringo's drums are great. It wouldn't be on that speaker. It'd have to go over to the other side of the room and replay the record again. Funny stuff. Yeah,
it was. But Stephen, look, that's something again I'd love to see explored. Some sort of, I mean, I don't know how you can do it, but I mean, it wouldn't work now, but just seeing the initial reaction of people hearing the music for the first time, because you take it for granted. I mean, we've all lived through it once. It was actually you gave me a sort of...
It's always the best one, John, the first time,
hearing that music for the first time.
I always remember when you got the box set and you were going through it all, and I thought, Jesus, I'm so jealous of John right now.
But can you imagine that in the 60s?
I always remember that buzz of just moving through every track. John, funnily enough, today when I was working away, I've got music on in the background. I went from Please Please Me right up to Revolver, back to back. Short albums, to be fair, they're only a half hour long, but
that's what made the Beatles so good,
though. It's a great way to see the progression, the change, you know, in their writing and stuff.
This is why I firmly will argue with anybody to the death, fight to the death, when people say wrongfully, they're just a pop band, they're just samey. No, they're fucking not. No one changed that dramatically in any sort of genre of music in any time period like the Beatles did. Their transformation from sort of heartthrob pop stars to what they became in the middle to the end. What a transformation.
Yeah.
So I'm not having it, man. I will fight to the death. That's why I always say Blur are better than Oasis, because they actually fucking followed a similar path. They didn't just become this parody to a bygone era. They were always innovating. Graham Cox and Damon Albarn.
Even now, John, and watching Get Back, Peter Jackson's Get Back, and you see Lennon the way he is, he's very thin, his hair's long, he's wearing the glasses, he's just very different to the way he looked, you know, a couple of years previous when they were doing Rubber Soul. A lot more heavier, longer hair, didn't have the glasses, no facial hair. And sometimes I'm like, sometimes I just think that's not the same person, but it is obviously the same person, just obviously his physical appearance changed so dramatic.
Well, I mean, we've seen it in the anthology, Stephen, when he cut his hair, and there was this image of him in the newspaper. I think he cut it for
How
the
I
War
Won the
movie,
War.
How I Won the War. And I'm like, fucking hell.
Yeah, it was well scalped at the back, wasn't it?
He goes from this side-swept hair, quite chubby-cheeked, prominent-jawed guy.
From the Rain video,
From the Rain video. Quite bulky, to this gaunt-looking, totally different guy, wearing glasses. He's got the sort of handlebar moustache.
Pretty sure that was directed by Michael Lindsay Hogg as well.
Oh, Stephen, I've seen that movie. He's hilarious in it. The movie itself.
I mean the Rain video.
Oh, the
John.
Rain video. I'm talking about Power on the Wall.
I think that was Richard Lester.
It's funny as hell, man.
Yeah.
And he's
Roy Kinnear, yeah.
legit brilliant, Lennon. But he was a genius.
Live versus studio. I'm going to say something here. Live. There's an appreciation though.
You talk about the Beatles here.
In terms of final product, it's got to be studio every time with any artist. But there's something, John, I picked up today on the Beatles group we're in. It was it's just unearthed this recording of If I Fell live. I need to show you. It's absolutely outstanding.
I love If I Fell.
Thanks for reminding me, Matthew.
No, listen, man, there's something about live, and this is why I need to go and see Bob Dylan first and foremost when he comes to Glasgow later this year, because he's adamant that he will not play the music as it was on their record.
Yeah.
Because if you want to listen to that, you've got the fucking record.
I get
listen
that.
to it.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
He wants to give a new experience to the audience every time he plays it live. That's maybe not what they did back then, the Beatles, because as you said, Stephen, they were short songs and you can't really, and they couldn't hear themselves. But certainly George was playing different solos. Lennon was doing shit with his elbows on fucking organs. And they were just doing different intonations. You can hear it with something like maybe Till There Was You.
Yeah.
There's 3-4 different versions and they're all starkly different styles. There's like a borderline Spanish version. Souls are totally different. So I would probably agree. I think that, Stephen, again, that's a testament of the Beatles, how good they are. They can perform to that high standard live when there's piercing screams. But they're every bit as good in the studio. They were just so adaptable.
They're just from generation to generation as well, John. There's something about Night Daniel.
We will definitely be getting into Bollywood movies.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. We will.
Something about generation. Just the Beatles. You know, they just go from generation. My daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, came in tonight after being out with her gran all day and came in and says, "I've got a new Beatles favourite song." I went, "All right, okay, what is it?" Twist and Shout.
Twist and Shout, yeah.
Wow.
And it is a great
technically
song.
A Beatles song, but theirs is a definitive version as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so when you think
it's
of
not
it?
Shakademus and Pliers, I'm afraid.
I quite like that one as well.
I do like it, but it's not a patch.
That was probably the first one I heard, to be fair.
I love you.
But getting back to this, man, and getting back to this movie, I mean, there's so much possibility there. Look, if they aren't doing a sort of live tour, flying the wall kind of live movie, if that's technically a documentary and he's no interest in doing the holographic thing, then I've said it used to, that my next best thing, if it's not detailing the middle era, which hasn't got enough footage, you see it in the Help movie, when they're doing you're getting little snippets in the studio and they're smoking and stuff.
Yeah.
That's about as close as we get.
Yep.
It's all audio, and I love the audio outtakes from the anthology.
Yep.
I find myself getting back.
Yeah,
I get back and listen to them, man. Yes, it is, and stuff like that. And you can hear the banter, the back and forth. I don't know how you could recreate that. I don't know how it could work, but I'd love to see it. But if it's not going to be that,
Paul's broken glass.
Broken the glass. Paul's broke a glass. A glass of glass is broke today.
Da-da-da-ding.
Things like that, yeah. But if we're not going down that route, Stephen, the explosion of the band.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it done in so many documentaries. But imagine actually doing a movie where you're using this sort of vocal stuff, the AI algorithmic stuff for the vocals. You're putting John and George and Paul and Ringo there in youthful form in a movie, and we get to chart and be with them.
What about this, John?
We get to be in Paris when they're munching on a steak dinner and they get the news that they've broke.
I'm going to combine two films
America.
that have come out over the last couple of years, actually, and this is another theory that
musical?
could work. Yesterday, the film Yesterday, and Bohemian Rhapsody. What If is thrown in as well from Marvel,
Man.
And the reason for that is, what if this could be a what if actually. 1982, John Lennon, was still alive. 1982, gets a phone call from Paul. I've had a phone call from Bob to Geldof. They're thinking about pulling a gig together in a couple of years' time. Are you interested? And we get to see the Beatles play at Live Aid.
That'd be fucking great. That would.
How incredible would that be?
It would, and that would be that would play into the technology we're having to improve.
Yeah.
Where we can maybe put them in there in realistic form. Other possibilities, Stephen, I mentioned that they are Rocket Man, but it's a fantastical sort of musical. And the Beatles were doing that in the 60s anyway, with Yellow Submarine and stuff like that.
Lucy in the Sky,
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. We were getting whisked off to fantastical settings. You maybe, I don't know, it's like biographic tale, but we're getting whisked off into the visual wonders that they conjured up in their songs.
Some of the best bits in that film, John, the
See, I
Rocket
think
Man,
of
that.
Love. I think of the Love album.
Yep.
And
Cirque
what?
Soleil, yeah.
I mean, I'm forgetting, but his name is George Martin's son.
Giles
Martin.
Yeah. Yep.
What he did with that production, combining all of the music and don't know, am I right in saying they created sort of visual media for that, or was it like a circus performance?
Yeah.
Imagine doing that.
I think there was
but in a
animations as well. I think there was some sort of intersplice sort of animations.
You
And
think
stuff
of
like
Real
that,
Love,
yeah.
you think of. And I'm blanking on the name of it just now, which is absolutely terrible. The first single
Freeze a Bird, yeah.
Freeze a Bird.
Yeah.
Where you've got the brilliant videos and it's taking you off through a journey of their career, all of the songs, all of the characters that they embodied over that 10-year period.
Yeah.
Imagine making a whole movie and that is the thing, and it's almost telling a story of this great band, of their life, how they impacted on the world, but we visit the story through the songs. I think that'd be fucking incredible.
Yeah,
There's so much potential there, Stephen, with the Beatles, because their catalogue, we speak about it all the time. We're biased because we're huge fans of them, but I think they've got the strongest back catalogue of any musical.
I think so.
Artist
I think
band
as well, John, since since maybe about 2010, the Beatles and Apple have really opened up a bit more in terms of what they can give us. Maybe previous to that, I know that Neil Aspinall was involved in the Love album along with George Harrison before he sad passing, the concept of it. But since obviously the Apple dispute with Steve Jobs' Apple, it was all resolved and they've came to digital download, which seemed to take an eternity to get their back catalogue on digital download. We've had the Love album, we've had Let It Be Naked, we've had Peter Jackson's Get Back, etc., and all the other things that have came in the last 10-15 years. I think they're in a better position than they were. I'm not saying it's because Neil Aspinall's no longer with us. I think he guarded obviously the Beatles,
rightly,
and rightly so, along with George Martin, Derek Taylor and all that.
Sogo adverts and they're selling their brand out.
Yeah, well that's it. They really did protect it for so long. But I think there's still that element there from the people that are obviously at Apple now, along with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, to make sure that they're distributing their content in a respectable way. Obviously, Sean Lennon's now, and he's in charge of
that. He's in charge of Lennon's
estate. You've got Olivia Harrison with George's.
Stephen, I love that, man. The next generation. I mean, again, you speak about maybe the legacy of these men, a testament to perhaps their. Maybe not their parent skills, because we all know John wasn't perfect, man, and there's no perfect human being out there, but they've created and they've gave us really well-rounded kids, and they're not kids anymore, they're in their 40s and 30s maybe, but Danny Harrison and Sean Lennon and Julian Lennon, they're just brilliant guys, man, are dead rounded, really artistically brilliant people in their own right. The McCartney kids,
very strong-willed people,
strong-willed, hugely successful. You think of Stella McCartney, you think of all the design stuff they've done. They've gave the next generation of Lennons and Harrisons and McCartneys just fucking brilliance in their own right, man. And you think of Sean, he's took over the estate. I think that's
chips
perfect.
Off the old block, John. That's the best thing about it.
What was it he sung? Sean the other week there for Marcus' birthday.
He did Isolation, but I think he did. It was
it here? It wasn't here today.
There, everywhere. There,
everywhere.
I was going to say it was a Marcus track. Yeah,
it was brilliant.
Yeah,
his voice is super.
He's got a good voice. Yeah.
And he's
a hard song.
Great.
That's a very hard song to sing.
He's playing finger picking on the guitar. It's just.
He did Isolation for I think Lennon's 80th birthday as well, didn't he? And it was a very good cover.
Yeah, I like Sean. Sean's class. Really cool dude. Just the epitome of a sort of New York kid.
Yeah.
A guy who grew up in that city. It's really ambitious and youthful and artistic. You think of Chalamet, you think of Dylan, you think of all these New York people.
Yeah.
And I think of Sean Lennon right away. This guy's been around that scene, the vibes. And he just reeks of it, man. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we've got this generation. You've maybe not got your Neil Aspinall's in there now, but you've got this new generation who are equally guarding it. Giles Martin, but they're also maybe pushing the envelope and want to do something different with the likes of Peter Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that Peter Jackson's team are nothing to do with Giles Martin, but I think in terms of collaboration, they work well, and I think as well that Peter Jackson's more of a an
Sound
inventor in terms of, he's very much like George Lucas in a way, where he'll try new things that have not been tried before. He might not be a master in that sort of thing, but he has a vision, and he'll get to that point at some point when technology does catch up. And I think the isolated track, John, that's the key to it. I think that's what's probably sparked it. The Glastonbury I've Got a Feeling thing that he did with Lennon's track, that they can actually get into video now and pull the track out.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And I think that's how it worked.
It's all started with They Shall Not Grow Old, and that innovating and taking older stuff and really giving it new life. It's opened up so much potential. And then with all the AI algorithmic stuff that we can do with voices, what we can do with visual media now, there's so much potential there. Of course, it is a dodgy subject because you have got people who are no longer with us, and it's about guarding their legacy, because if you go the wrong way with it, it can taint what they actually gave us as a living being, and it's not their fault because they're not actually involved in the process. So you have to be very careful with it as well. But there's so much potential, and I think he's maybe seen how it's affected Macca, because he was genuinely moved hearing John's voice and performing with his old friend again live. I watched Glastonbury and you could see it actually did move him. What I loved about Macca in that performance as well, he never misses anybody. Anyone that's made an impact on him, he'll do a Jimi Hendrix sort of thing, he'll do a tribute to George Harrison, he'll do a tribute to Ringo, he'll do a tribute to Lennon. He never misses anybody.
That's it.
He's always aware.
And Linda as well.
And Linda. He's aware of everyone that's been in his life. If there'd been a positive influence and not like that other fucker that was in his life. And he'll never miss anybody. So look, we often have a laugh and a joke about Macca. He likes to rewrite history at times.
He does, but
and he likes to maybe say, look, I was involved in this song, and he'll maybe try to claim ownership of something that we know for a fact he wasn't.
I think if you know, you know, don't you? And I think
usually involved in.
Well. Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, he's still deeply passionate about the Beatles as a brand. He was always the guy pushing it, man. Maybe him and Lennon at the start, but certainly from the mid-era onwards, it was him that gave. If it wasn't for Macca, we wouldn't have had.
I think it took Macca a long time though to really accept the split. I think it really did affect him the most. I don't think it affected George or John in the same way. I think their minds were already set on moving on to the next thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you could see that in the sort of footage you saw, but it just wasn't there. You know. Especially with
Consumer Yoko, wasn't he?
I think with George's recordings, he was very dismissive at times. Although he did credit the likes of Something and Here Comes the Sun as the best tracks on Abbey Road and stuff like that, his involvement. But you have to look at it and measure as well. You have to go, well, look at the amount of input from Lennon tracks on those last two albums as well. Not as much as you would have saw maybe 3-4 years previously.
Yeah.
So he's definitely not going to play in a Harrison song if he's not doing anything himself. So look at it that way.
Yeah, there's this sort of strange community spawned online where Lennon hated George.
It's not
when
true.
They were in the Beatles.
No, it's not
I
true.
don't believe they hated any one of the Beatles. I think they all loved each other. They went on that journey. They spent a real long time. I don't think people quite understand when you're round about someone that intimately for that long. It becomes heavy, man. You need to take a break.
That's it, yeah.
I don't think them splitting. I'm sure George probably spoke about this better than I ever could because he was there.
Because you got the tambourine wrong that my whole life is in a bloody mess. I love that.
It's true though. Once they've been together that petty. Long, they would have became petty because they'd reached the zenith of what they could give creatively, and they had to then go off and do their own thing to free themselves up. Stephen, I've said it earlier on, but for me, their back catalogue does the speaking for itself. You can go through every single album and there's maybe 1 week song. Sometimes there's not even a week song.
Yep.
I can go through their whole back catalogue, 10 years worth, and there's probably 3-4 average songs. I think right off the top of my head, Wild Honey Pie, Maxwell Silver Hammer, Run For Your Life I wasn't a huge fan of.
No, I don't like that.
Little Child. Yeah. There's maybe... There's a horrendous one on Hard Day's Night as well. There's a horrendous one. What was that?
I listened to that today. So
God, there was a terrible one. Yeah. But maybe 4 or 5 songs out of it, but I don't know how many songs.
There is a bad Harrison one from that period that I didn't like. I can't remember what it was called though. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't good. It was bad. But
in the main, their consistency was incredible. They gave as much as they possibly could as a band. But there's just this mysticism surrounding the Beatles.
Yeah.
We're now knocking on 60 years out. Probably from the early days, we are 60 days out now. 60 years out now, I should say. Wish it was fucking 60 days, Christ. And there's still an obsession with the band.
Yeah.
Obsession with the pop cultural impact it had at the time, the reverberations to the modern day. People are interested, as you said, Stephen, generational.
Yeah.
People who are 9 love them, people who are 99 love them, and in between. So as long as there's that interest, and we've still got living, breathing members, and we've got guys like Peter Jackson who are hugely passionate and fans of the band and want to do something different, we're going to get this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, Steve, because we were quite downbeat after watching Get Back.
Yeah. Because we thought that was that.
We were thinking there's no more we can possibly get from the
No.
Beatles. They've mined it empty.
I know.
Now we're having to lean on perhaps new technologies, but look, I'll take all I can get
Yeah, that's
from
it.
the Beatles.
Yeah.
Matthew's talking about Decca. Bésame, bésame mucho, love me forever and say that you'll always be mine.
Dun, 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 dun.
Cha-cha boom. That was on Decca, wasn't it?
Yeah. 3 little cats or something like that. 3 cool cats.
3 cool cats.
I love
or something
that.
like that, yeah.
Up popped
Yeah.
that first cool
Listen,
cat.
man.
He said, "Man, look at that. Man, do you see what I see? I like that little chick. Oh, I love that little chick. Oh, save that little chick for me. Yeah."
See, I like that early stuff. We were doing all the Carol Perkins stuff and fucking the blues stuff that was
Very
inspiring
obscure
them.
stuff, yeah.
Obscure shit that
Yeah.
we didn't know, like the coasters and things like that.
Ronnie Verrell was a English jazz drummer, I believe.
Yes.
Don't know too much about him, but I'll have to look into that, Matthew. Yeah.
We're always learning. But yeah, I was speaking to Matthew before, about an hour ago, and we were talking about Decca, that misguided fool that says guitar music was on the way out. So I will not sign you, Beatles. I will consign you to the dustbin. Oh no, you won't, because we're going to EMI, Parlophone, and we're going to make you eat your fucking words, bitch.
Yeah.
And they did.
They did.
And I don't remember the name of that little guy
Yeah, I can't remember.
who said that.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I remember the fucking Beatles.
I know George passed the Rolling Stones on to that same chap, so I got something, I suppose.
Got something, yeah. You got
Yeah.
Beatles like.
Yeah, well, that's it, John. George Martin got Coca-Cola and that guy got Panda Cola, so
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
Red Core.
yeah.
Gives you heartburn. And ultimately, it's just not as good.
Ted Heath? Teddy? Okay.
Teddy. What was the name of that Teddy fucker? He was the Prime Minister, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I'll not be voting for
Yeah.
Ted.
Edward.
Edward, is that what it is? Yeah,
Yeah, Ted, yeah.
That's strange, because I was thinking about that the other day. Ted Kravitz, F1.
Edward.
Sort of journalist, is that what his name is then? Edward Kravitz? Ted?
Yep.
How the fuck does that happen? Ted
Tedward.
Edward.
Yeah.
Tedward.
Jedward.
Jedward,
Yeah.
oh Christ. I'll not speak
We
about
went
them.
from Beatles to Jedward.
No, we mustn't, and that's
Let's
for
not end
you
on
to
that.
perhaps stop. I mean, we probably should have stopped when I started singing Bésame Mucho, because for one, I can't sing, and I'm certainly not Macca, because it was him that was doing the heavy lifting with that song, and believe me, no one had a better voice than Macca. I will fight everyone to the death on that as well. Come at me, bitches. Shove your Mariah Carey up your arse. Shove your Prince up your arse. Shove your Michael Jackson up your arse. Paul was better than all of them, and he played every instrument, and he fucking wrote his own songs, and he scored a fucking film with a full orchestra.
They did
Paul.
a few films, yeah.
Paul is
Yep.
the man. Fuck you, all the naysayers out there.
When we're not talking about Lennon, that is.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Lennon as well. Stephen Lennon's my favourite. He
Happiness
is my
a long
favourite.
gun.
but-
What a voice.
Yeah, I mean, I love Lennon as well, but Macca's voice is just the greatest ever for me. It's just, was it 7-8 octaves?
You'll get all the Queen fans coming in now.
Freddie, listen, Freddie didn't even
I love
write half.
Freddie. I love Freddie,
Didn't
but
write half the songs, though,
No.
man. It was Brian May and the drummer.
talking about obviously voices, he has got an outstanding voice.
He has,
but
but it's not Macca.
it's not Macca, exactly.
It's not Macca. Sorry,
It's not Ringo.
Listen, Freddie wouldn't have even have claimed to have had a better voice than Paul McCartney. He would not have. They
No.
were inspired by the Beatles.
Yep, I've seen the interview with Freddie talking about Lennon.
Yeah.
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 And that's why I love Freddie. He
Yeah.
was honest. He
Yeah.
was great.
He was a
But
very
he wasn't
funny guy
better
as
than the
well.
Beatles.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. No one's better than the Beatles. Listen, you
Apart
just
from the Ruttles.
don't listen to me. Listen to the musical experts who have deconstructed their entire back catalogue and says they were the first modern day musicians
Howard
to change
Goodall.
musical structures since the
him,
great
wasn't it?
composers. It was, yeah.
It was the guy that did the theme tune to Red Dwarf.
Yeah. Yeah,
He knows what he's talking about.
He knows what he's talking about, and he says, listen, he does, that's a great theme. He says they were literally the first band to shake up chord structures
Yeah.
and stuff like that since the great composers.
Yep.
No one's done it since. Get
No.
fucked. And on that note, we're going to round it up. always live your life by the mantra of Graham Coxon, who says, and I'm going to paraphrase, I hold a deep mistrust towards anybody who say they do not like the Beatles, because they are lying bastards, and if they don't like the Beatles, they're not the type of person you want to be hanging about with, because they're for the watching, because the Beatles are the greatest. It's like boxing. Muhammad Ali will always be the greatest. Come at me, bitches. Big band music, yeah. What I'm listening to from that, that's what I'm listening to. Oh yeah, so it was like the Ted Heath band. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know much about it, man, but I
Glenn
think
Miller, that
Glenn
kind of
Miller,
thing,
yeah.
In the mood, yeah, okay.
But let's go and round it up, man.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Peter Jackson? What's your thoughts on the Beatles? If you don't like the Beatles, don't come on this channel. You will be barred forever. Condemned to purgatory, to hell. I'll see you in hell. What's your thoughts on a potential new Beatles movie, man? Pushing the envelope in terms of technology. He says the technology exists, but it requires development to make his vision a reality. You can comment down below if you've got anything to say about that.
Get Magic Alex in. Anyway.
With his magic toilets and his fucking... What was it, a 12 track or something? A 8 track recording studio?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't.
No.
That's why I like George.
Well, he didn't.
Well, he didn't. You bitter, George? Of course he was. He was deeply bitter that they'd moved away from Abbey Road. He's
And
like,
he said
what
to
are you
John,
fucking doing?
I hope your friend's dead.
Yeah, I hope your friend's dead.
He hated him.
Is he dead?
I
Is
don't know.
Magic Alex dead?
I honestly don't know.
Bet he's still kicking
Yeah,
about.
probably.
Pish stained and
Yeah.
like Doc Emmett Brown now. That's where we're going to end. Magic Alex, Doc Emmett Brown, pish stained. He actually gave Lennon the... Do you remember that light box? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
The light box, there's photographs of Lennon sitting with it. Apparently he used to smoke hash in his sunroom. He's obviously the huge estate he lived in. I forget, you know, Steve.
Ascot, yeah.
Ascot. He used to sit...
Tittenhurst.
Tittenhurst. He used to
Yes.
sit in his sunroom in the
Wow.
middle of the afternoon on hash, just staring at this light box. That was Magic Alex.
Opportunist.
I mean,
Yeah.
I, in some ways I begrudge that level of relaxation and simplicity, but in a lot of ways I just pity it as well. It's like, fuck man, you didn't have all this technology, the internet. I think he was happier though. So we'll leave it at that. What's your thoughts? You can comment down below if you have anything to say at all down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyeballs. To get further content like this on YouTube, and the exact same thing over on Twitch. Follow button, notifications button over there to see who's over there doing my thing as well. Regardless of what you do though, thank you everybody for the comments. Thank you to everybody who comes in during the live stream and watches and then afterwards watches the video. Thank you very much to every fucking one of you. But until next time, me and Stephen are done. But bye. Obligatory Harrison Ford finger wagging.
I didn't kill my wife.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. And I'm wagging as well, even though he didn't do it. Bye bye.